Hi, welcome again. I'm happy to see you back this week. Today I'm going to introduce a new concept that's quite important if you really want to have long-term results in dealing with your problem. Now, I'm going to come back on two things that I was pointing out indirectly before. One of them, do you remember that last week I explained you an exercise, and I'm curious how you did, if you had a chance to do this daily training and to do the exercise several times a day or not. Quite probable that you will not have had the time, but it still would be a good thing to do so, and I'll explain you today why. One is that we want to tell today about how the brain creates a new habit. I told you already that it would be good to repeat for 30 days in a row this exercise several times per day, and that was because we want to turn this exercise into a kind of almost unconscious habit. The other issue I was pointing out last week and the week before, that is that asking yourself solution-focused questions is a really good thing to do. And it is a really good thing to do because it focuses your attention on some different aspect of reality. While in reality there's always moments of failure and moments of success, it seems that the more we succeed in focusing our brain on these moments of success, the more we seem to remember pieces of solution that are helpful for our future solution. Now actually, do you want just to be able to have one time in your life a different feeling or to have a different behavior? Imagine someone with an alcohol problem who says, you know, next year, Wednesday the 23rd of February, I'm being successful to not drinking too much alcohol. You know, that doesn't solve his problem. He wants to be able to repeat the successful behavior of controlled drinking or not drinking every day. And if you have a depression, you want to create a habit that makes you not be depressed every day or most of your days. And if you are overstressed, you want to become like with positive stress on neutral for most of your days. And if you have a tendency to have too much fear or anxiety, you want it to become a habit. Now, how do we create a new habit in our brain? That's a really important thing. The important thing is that in our brain there are nerve cells. And actually one nerve cell is giving an electrical impulse that will be captured by another nerve cell. You could say like the nerve cell is sending information, the other nerve cell has a kind of recepting system that can capture the information that's transmitted from one to another. And what we know is that one nerve cell can connect with up to 40,000 different other nerve cells. So that makes that our brain can have trillions of connections with billions of cells. And these combinations will make who we are. And those things that on a regular basis we do will make our routines of our life. For instance, when you were learning to walk as a child, you learn to have your equilibrium, you learn to step, to make steps, to lift one feet, to push it forwards, to leave it down, to replace your center of gravity so that your other leg could lift up, and this was something in the beginning that you were learning, but now you're doing it without any effort. It became a habit. The same thing with happiness, with gratitude, with satisfaction. The same thing with dealing with stress. We want it to become a habit. That's why I need to explain you how habits are formed in our brain. I told you that one nerve cell can have a connection with another nerve cell, and that's done with what we call in science, but you can forget this word, called a synapse. Now what we know from science, that if a nerve cell is triggered long enough to have a response or a connection with another nerve cell, that if you do that for more than 30 days in a row, that this nerve cell has the capability to make a second synapse or connection with this nerve cell. So instead of having one connection, one with another, this nerve cell can end up with 2 or 3 different connections. And this process of building these new connections takes about 4 weeks or 30 days. That means that if you have something successfully that you discover with a self-help program or with a therapist or in a coaching process, and if you do not repeat it for 30 days in a row, several times a day, there's a high probability that these connections will not be reinforced, and some months later you will have relapsed. And that's why repetition on a daily basis, and that whatever program you want to follow, choosing for a program on a daily basis helps you reinforce these connections in your brain is an important thing if you want to get rid of your problem forever. Otherwise you'll have a quick fix, and the quick fix will not remain stable over time. Now, I explained you the first principle is that there can be between 2 nerve cells new connections. Another very new discovery in science, and that's really very hot news that was discovered in the recent years, is that we have stem cells, and there's a lot of ethical issues about stem cells, but in our brain there is neurons or neural cells that have an active function, but there's also stem cells, and stem cells are like sleeping cells that are not a neuron yet. Now, if some really important learning happens, if someone really has an intensive learning process, a cell, that's a stem cell, is a sleeping cell, can turn itself into a neuron. That's the reason why, for instance, people who have brain stroke and part of the brain is damaged can sometimes recover part of the function, because when the brain is damaged, the stem cells will turn into neurons, and the neurons later will make all these new connections. Now, what we discovered by accident is that the time that a stem cell needs to turn into a neuron is about 4 weeks or 30 days. That's another argument why it's important to stimulate the brain 30 days in a row to learn a new habit. And by the way, in order to create all the connections between this stem cell and the neurons, it takes about 4 months. That means that if you really want to reinforce the new habit so much that relapse will be prevented, you will need probably to work on it 4 to 6 months about. So, if I try to repeat what it's all about, a good program is, in the first place, asking questions that make you reflect on what solutions are working for you. So we gave you some tips in the beginning. We gave you an exercise, and those can be useful. But what's more important that is that you ask yourself the right questions that help you discover your right solutions. And for one person, a solution can be to avoid certain contexts, or to avoid certain friends or people that have a negative influence. But for other people, it's just to learn to say no, and to still have contact with the same people, but to say no, this what you ask me, I don't want to do it because it will stress me, or it will depress me, or it will give me fears. So that means that a solution for one person doesn't have to be a solution for another person. And the really important thing is that you find out what solutions work for you. And once you have a clue of the solutions that work for you, you have to turn it into a habit. Now, the exercise I'm going to give you now for today is a really difficult one. I'm asking you the question, and take some minutes to reflect about it before you write it down. If there would be one new habit that you could learn that would really change your life fundamentally, which habit would you need to develop first? What habit, if you would develop it, would really impact your life positively? It can be the habit of being more assertive, it can be a habit of having a better time management, or learning to set priorities, or learning to say no to someone, or whatever thing. It can be the habit of creating a Zen position or relaxation in your body, whatever you want. So try to answer the question, what habit would be the most useful for you to develop? And write it down, and then I hope to see you back next week. Thanks a lot.